Hey folks, it's Mike Shea from SlyFlourish.com here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show shot 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Times on Twitch, in which I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my D&D game. In this case, I am running a homebrew Eberron campaign that I am calling the Second Mourning, and that's what we'll be talking about today. This show is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. If you want to be a patron of Sly Flourish, you can go to patreon.com/SlyFlourish and help support this show and all of the equipment that it takes to make the show and all of the bandwidth costs and all sorts of other odds and ends. One of the things that the patrons of Sly Flourish pay for is the Sly Flourish newsletter, which is a way to get the Sly Flourish article directly sent to your inbox just by email. Links for all of that are in the show notes below. Hey, my mom is here, and He's Not Your Problem is here, and hello, John is here. We got lots of people today. This is great. So what other news or announcements do I have? I think that's about it. So I ran. This is going to be episode 5. Session 5 of my Eberron game. And in I got a lot to talk about. The last game didn't go great. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, oh my God, this game sucks. But it was not great. And I thought I wonder if it's not great for this particular reason. And I'm actually running the same general campaign for both my Sunday and my Wednesday group. So I said I could either completely change it for my Wednesday group because it didn't go particularly well, or I can go with my Sunday group, and I can go ahead and run the same adventure for my Wednesday group that I ran for my Sunday group and see how it goes for them. And the answer to that was it wasn't great for the Wednesday group either. So I'm like, okay, this reminds me of when I ran what was the adventure in Ghosts of Saltmarsh? Isle of the Abbey. So I ran Isle of the Abbey for my Wednesday group, and they didn't like it. It's very funny because I set up a huge Dwarven Forge setup for this big, beautiful table-sized Dwarven Forge arrangement. And we even took a picture because one of the players couldn't make it. So we took a picture of all the players going staring at it going, oh. And it was probably the worst game I can recall ever running. And I was like, I wonder if I just ran it poorly or if this adventure kind of sucks. So let me run it for my Sunday group. And I ran it for the Sunday group and they're like, yeah, this sucks. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it really sucks. So sometimes I have to try it twice, which is too bad because I never want a bad game. So I think generally if I'm going to, He's Not Your Problem says, Isle of the Abbey sucks as written. And I agree. It's my least favorite adventure in Ghost of Saltmarsh. And my recommendation is at best, take some of the seeds and run with it yesterday. Evil John says that ran it yesterday and rebuilt it based on your feedback. And he said it went great. Great. I am glad that our experiences running it poorly led to useful advice where somebody else could enjoy it. So I think there's a net positive in the world there, and I'm happy with the net positive. So I think, and boy, when I run games that don't run particularly well, it leads to lots of things. Like I think when I ran that Isle of the Abbey game, I ended up having a DM deep dive about running bad games and recovering from bad games. I wrote 2 articles about recovering from bad games, and I wrote an article and had numerous discussions on this show about why that particular adventure sucked, and also how a DM can sort of get past the negativity of having run a bad game and get back in the saddle. So, so I think when I run games that aren't particularly great, I certainly learn more. I don't know, it feels like it's not worth it though, because you still dragged 5 people through a game that wasn't as good as it could have been. So I don't know. I feel bad I don't feel bad for running a bad game the first time. I feel bad for running it a second time and going, yeah, it's still bad. So, but it wasn't bad. It was like a 6 out of 10. My wife, who's right outside the door, gave it a 6 out of 10. And that's not terrible, right? So it's okay. I liked it for the 7 or 8 out of 10, and rare occasions a 9 or a 10. But I'll 6 out of 10 isn't terrible. So I don't think, and I talked to all my players in my Wednesday group about it, and they were like, yeah, it was fine, but there was these issues here and there. So we're going to talk about those issues a little bit, and then we're going to talk about recovery, because now we're going back into the same situation, and I want to make sure that today's adventure goes well. So the issue was I wanted to run a dinner party. Right, I wanted to run a big fancy gala at the estate of Leto Skal, who is a gold ring member of the Aurum, and Yeah, 6 out of 10 isn't bad. It's passing in most colleges. Yeah, I skated through on a 6 out of 10 in college. So, yes, they're having a dinner party at the Orem, and you already know that like a dinner party isn't your typical D&D setup. It's not a comfortable arrangement. It isn't a dungeon, right? It isn't like, an event. Now, but social events happen. I would assume that social events happen, usually pretty quickly. You have an audience with the king, or you go meet with one of the dragon marked of a house, and then you have a conversation, and then you're done, and you go do stuff. But like a dinner party, a dinner party or a gala, well, that might take an entire session. And the problem is, in the same way that going into a dungeon and fighting room after room of monsters without any interaction removes an entire pillar of play, likewise, going to a gala where your sword is never going to leave your sheath also eliminates one of the pillars of play, right? And it means that like if you've got the 3 pillars, your role playing, your exploration, and your combat, and you cut one of the pillars out, you're cutting a lot of options, right? So when you have a gala, if you can, like, how do you fit a battle in there, right? How do you have something? And there's ways, I think. I didn't have them. And the other thing is I really doubled and tripled down on exploration, that I really wanted to, I knew that interaction's not going to be a problem. You're at a gala, you can talk to a million people. But how do you also make it where people can do investigation and perceptions and sleight of hands and if you look at the skill list that exists in D&D and you say like, what are all of the things that can happen in a dinner party that can interface with these skills? And by the way, do the characters actually have these skills? I think that's an important step. And anyway, so I wrote like a 2,500 word article about it, on how to run dinner parties. There's a really good article, I think it's on the Alexandrian, about how to run social events and dinner parties that I thought was pretty good. I think that the steps from return, even though I used them, and even though the events didn't go particularly well, as far as like, if I'm shooting for an 8 out of 10, even though it didn't go particularly well, I think the steps still hold up. I think they're still useful. I think there's a couple of areas for emphasis that are required when you're running a dinner party. And probably the one that I think I failed the most on my Sunday game last week and did a little bit better on the Wednesday is, why the hell are you there? Right? And one problem I think I had in this particular campaign is that I brought the dinner party up too early and it wasn't clear why the characters are there. So I had an NPC in either case. It actually makes more sense for the Sunday group than the Wednesday group. For the Sunday group, there was a goal, and the goal was, hey, we're delivering this book that you purchased to this guy, and we're selling it to him, but we're probably gonna have to get it back, and we're probably gonna have to steal it back from here. So I want you guys to case this joint while we're here. That's a clear goal, right? And case the joint is one thing, but also like you can even narrow it down. Like, I bet the guy's got a secret vault. Find out where his secret vault is, right? That's a better goal. So you really, when you're running a dinner party or any kind of big social event that's going to take a significant amount of time, you never want the players to say like, the hell am I doing here? Or I guess I'll go talk to some people, right? And that's wandering around with a drink in their hand, Hey, you barbarian? Yes, I am. Do you rage? Yes, I do. So you don't want to, you want to make sure that the players know why they're there and that they're accomplishing goals while they're there. And that I think is really important. I think already building out like what locations exist. Do you even rage, bro? So even know what locations exist in the place is really important. This is where we can sort of like print out a Dyson map and just take out a pen and write on the map what all the locations are, so that when the players and the characters are exploring it, you can sort of describe it. And then I think secrets and clues are super important. They're super important in any game, but they're really important in social events because there's going to be that's really the reward, is learning secrets and clues. So I think that is a super valuable thing. But there is a part of me that's like, make sure you really want to run a dinner party. Like, don't, why are you doing it? And I think it's, instead of saying, which I kind of did, right? The one mistake I had is like, well, I'm throwing him in dungeon after dungeon. Well, I really only threw him in one so far, but like in my head, it's like I've got 15 dungeons for them to explore. And I'm like, I want to have some other scenes than just dungeon delving for them. I want to have, there's a lot of politics going on and there's a lot of interesting things. And I want to sort of throw them in there. And I'm like, what better way than a dinner party to like introduce a bunch of villains and introduce a bunch of players so that they can kind of see like, oh, So these are all the people we're working with. But I think I did it too early. Like they didn't know who Leto Skal was. They didn't even, they didn't even meet him. So they should learn that like there's a gold ringer Eberron that's interested in the artifacts that they're pulling back, and that there's something suspicious about them. And they should have had some other NPCs that are like, this guy's shady, man. Like there's something going on. And then like make it so that they want to go to the dinner party. So I think like it's one of these scenes where if you could say, and I think this is a good point, like what are the, I think I think this is in the original Lazy Dungeon Master, and I certainly wrote articles about the 3+ infinite options, which is like, you're in your headquarters. Here's the current situation. Here are 3 potential paths that you could take to kind of go through the situation. Or you can choose something else, right? If you guys have another idea. And if one of those is get yourself invited to the dinner party of Leto Skal, right? And then one of the others is go down into the cogs and meet that weird contact, meet the anonymous contact who said they have information from the Droam for you, or information from Dask for you. And then the other one is go break into the Forbidden Library in Moorgrave University. And if the characters say, they look at those and they go, we can go down to the cogs and meet an anonymous contact from the Dask. We can go to Moorgrave University, break into the library and go into the Forbidden section and try to get the second Tome of Making, which is known as the Tome of Kulsir. It's actually not. It's a Tome of Unmaking. Or we can go to dinner party. And they go, yeah, let's go to that dinner party. Well, now you've given them the choice, and now the players are interested in going to the dinner party. And you want to know, like, why are you going to the dinner party, right? Super important. And if it's like, go to, get into the dinner party so you can stake out Leto Skal's manor, because you're probably going to have to break in there and steal something, or better yet, right? Let's just narrow that goal down and say, get into Leto Skal's manor during a dinner party to steal back the Tome of Making, right? That is a good goal. And it's one where you could see players that are like, yeah, that is equal in interest to these other two. And I don't think I was there. I kind of force is a strong word. Maybe I don't want to say that I forced it, even though I did. But I kind of forced the dinner party. I did. Like I had the NPC saying, hey, we're all going to dinner party. And then the players are like, okay. And I said, like, here's some clear goals. And I threw a lot of exploration ideas so they could learn a lot while they were there. But I definitely got the feeling that people weren't as engaged in the game and that they kind of didn't know what they were doing there. I think some people liked it better than others. And the other, so Evil John says, use art and portraits. And I did. Yeah, I threw portraits into the channel. I certainly use maps. Like, this is one where like you can, a map is really important because you want them to know where they are, right? And that worked well. And sharing that stuff is easy to do. I would say that, and I've had other people that talked about this on Twitter when I brought up the conversation, that running these kind of social events online. In fact, I had players in my game who said this too, that running a social event like this online is harder because the crosstalk is harder. And I think I should have mentioned that, like, if you guys want to sort of, conspire together, make sure you can do that in your text channels together. And then if you guys have a joint idea, you want to approach something, you can do it there. But because normally you can have some table crosstalk in a home game that you can't have online, that makes it not work. And Handyman81 says, part of me is I hate situations that NPCs interact with another. Yeah, and so I didn't do that. Right, that's a good lesson, and I probably ought to throw that in the article. Is like, don't ever have your NPCs talking to each other. In fact, interaction between NPCs is generally boring anyway. So you can just sort of treat it like background noise. Like there's a lot of people talking to each other, and you can see that Leto Skal is there with, Doris de Thrask, and they're talking about the book, but you don't have to like get into it. And really it's about who's interacting with the characters and who the character's interacting with. That's key. I didn't make that mistake. Like I didn't have a bunch of, you don't want NPCs talking NPCs, not for any length of time beyond like a few seconds. Handyman81 says that's the Strahd dinner party. Strahd dinner party is different too. The way I ran it was it could easily turn into a fight, and now you've got all 3 pillars in a dinner party, right? You have a table and Strahd's at the end, and they're in the castle, and there's these like vampire adventurers that are around the table, and the characters around the table, and the vampire adventurers, they're not saying anything. They're sitting there like smiling and grinning and getting ready to eat people. And Strahd is talking to the characters and making a negotiation, and he's like, give me Irina and you guys can leave this is the way I ran it when I ran it, and I thought it worked really, really well. Give me Irina and you guys can leave. And there was exploration, there was like subtlety, like trying to figure out the trying to figure out the other vampires, and the other vampires are like staring at him and like, who are these people? And there's like, you do checks like, yeah, these guys are 500 years older than you are, and all kinds of stuff. And you can do all the interaction of negotiation. And if the player's like, hell with it, boom, into a fight, bang, table gets flipped over, vampires, characters, and everyone's thrown down. So you have all three pillars, and the players have a choice. And I remember when I ran the Strahd dinner party, was one of my favorite moments of that campaign, because Strahd had the characters right on the edge of agreeing to his demands. He was right there. And they were like, so let me see if I get this straight. Irina comes to you, becomes your new bride. We give her up. We get to leave the castle, and we get to leave Barovia. We can leave the Mist, and we're free. And he said, yeah. And they're like, that's, look, he's killing people by the dozen. Like, she's one person, right? Like, this seemed, and she's willing to do it to sacrifice herself for Barovia. So who are we to stand in the way? And then like one of the players is like, what the hell are we doing? We're going to agree to Strahd? No, F that. Right. And he pulls out a sword, and all the vampires go crazy. And Strahd's like, well, see ya. And he turns into gas and flies away. And 4 vampires are fighting 4 characters. And it was this huge brawl. And like, people are throwing chickens at each other, and one person's climbing through under the table, and somebody gets charmed, and it was awesome, right? But I love that it was right on the edge of them saying yes. And then finally one player is like, why would we ever agree to something with Strahd? And then it went the other way. So that I think was cool. And I think having an option for combat works. So you can have something like the disgruntled nephew of a lord goes there and is threatening people, right? And you can take him out, or you can duel him, right? There's options. You can kind of see these situations where you can get involved in combat. I think are not bad ways to sort of try to throw the third pillar. Throwing chickens wasn't in my edition. Yeah, I think somebody picked up one of the chickens, and like they picked up the chicken, which was this big, succulent, well-roasted chicken, and then they looked and it was all rotted and covered in maggots. They're like, because it was all illusionary. Like, I ate some of that. It was a big food fight. It's in the errata. So, so you can have stuff like that. And Strahd's dinner party is like a really good example of how a dinner party can just be totally awesome. But, the Leto Skull dinner party, or it wasn't a dinner party, it was a gala. I don't know so much. Anyway, so that's something that I'm going to write about more. It was something I certainly learned. And now it really gets into, okay, where are we going from here? So I have my notes here, and we're going to start with step 1 from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, which is, who are the characters? Characters in this campaign are members of the Finders Guild. They are, and thus are part of House Tharashk. Their group patron is a woman named Doris de Tharashk. She is a half-orc, female half-orc explorer, but she spends most of her time in Sharn, and she is all about sort of investigating things. And the general plot is that she sees a lot of movement going on in the city, and she wants to skate where the puck is going to be. She thinks that there's people going after stuff, and if she can get it first, that they can propel the Finders Guild and propel the house in a good direction. And that's where it started so far. We have the characters. We have 6 characters. Arwen Chi Zizu, a scribing gnome artificer. Her father was a famous hero. She has a dodecahedron from her father. And when you're smart enough to open it, you will. She has a House Civis latent dragon mark, and her outfit for the event, for the gala, which is one good thing that worked for the gala, worked well with both groups, which is give them time to go get, dressed and let them kind of explore the city, and let them come up with, give them an allowance to find some clothes. So she had a Princess Di dress. We have Shift, played by Juliet, Warforged Warlock, Pact of the Undying, human experiment and life extension. She is one of the oldest warlocks of House Kenneth, and was actually a human turned into a warlock, a Warforged. And she has a black and gold leather, long gloves, and a gilded jaw. Her jaw has this gold kind of, like a reverse crown. That was her outfit for the event. We have Saber, played by Brian, long-tooth shifter, monk, bounty hunter, Temple of Balinor in the Fallen he's real interested in that. So I got to do something with that. We got to, you have a player who's like, I really want to go to that temple. So we're definitely going to open that temple up. He brings it up all the time. So we're going to do something with that. I don't know what. I got to have a reason to go down there. It might just be for him. It might be like a personal quest. Shane Husk is the crime novelist who wrote a best-selling book about the Mournland and wants to see if they can do it again. Real interest in the Great War, retired early, and is now following people around to try to get the next best book. Hobgoblin Wizard. We have Banner, a Warforged paladin who's seeking the becoming god, fought for years in the last war. Grew weary, was part of the Lord of Blades group, but realized that they were just bloodthirsty murderers and decided to leave. Polished up his armor, but still wears the torn banner that he wore during the mourning, or during the last war. Zarantir Delandier is a Tempest cleric, storm sorcerer. I don't know. Oh, was he here? He might not have been able to. No, he came in late, so he didn't really have an outfit. He broke an airship. So those are the characters, and the game ended. I sort of forced, and I have an idea for the strong start, but I want to be careful because my game wasn't great. So I really want to kind of push things up, and I'm worried that the strong start I have in mind is too, is too, takes things too far in another direction. But my idea, so the characters found Leto Skull's. They found Leto Skull's vault, right? That's where we ended. Both groups actually ended at the same place, finding Leto Skull's vault. And they can explore it, which would be fun. But as a strong start, I could also have, and this brings up some options. So it's definitely a strong start, which is manticores. So the characters are level 3. I'm pretty sure. I hope. I'm pretty sure they're level 3. Why don't we find out? Let's take a look. Go to Eberron. Go to collections, my campaigns. Go to Sunday. Bing. They are level 3. Who's missing? Somebody's missing from here. I think Pat's character is not here. Huh. I wonder why. So, okay, they're level 3. So they can take on some stuff. So my thought was that so here's my crazy ass strong start, which is a bunch of a couple of manticores, like 3 manticores, drop in. How many gnolls do you think a manticore can carry? And manticores are pretty tough, right? They are 3rd level. Hey, you can see I've got my beyond 20. I can roll dice. They're CR3. So I could have 2. Do you think a manticore could carry 4 gnolls each? And then I'm thinking of like, 3 manticores come flying over the city. They come like 3 manticores roar in, each carrying 4 gnolls. Gnolls. Regular gnolls, I think they're CR quarter. They're CR 1/2, so they're pretty tough, right? They got a bite and a spear attack. They only have 1 attack, but it is for it's a little bit, right? So they could bring in 4 gnolls each. The gnolls will have 8 regular gnolls. Can't spell. What other gnolls do we want here? I don't want the crazy high challenge rating ones. Fang of Yeenagu is probably a little hard. 65 hit point. One of these guys would not be bad. But they do 3 attacks, right? So, yeah, 14 and 6, 20 points of damage per hit, which is just about enough to drop a character. It might be a Fang. That could be one. And what's a Pack Lord? Pack Lord's probably too high. Pack Lord's a little lower. We'll go with a Pack Lord. Is Pack Lord out of the DM or Monster Manual? Yeah. Yeah, so Pack Lords are pretty tough. So maybe 2 Pack Lords. On the way in, one of the Manticores is killed outright to a ballista bolt. One is badly wounded. One is fresh. Of the gnolls, and then some number of gnolls are going to be killed by the guards. So here's the idea. These manticores, this gnoll pack and their manticore mounts are from Dask. Do they have a spy? They might have a spy. What would be a good Dask spy who drops in along with them? A doppelganger? Yeah, and a doppelganger spy. I presume they have a full doppelgangers in here, and I think a doppelganger spy kind of shifts into one of the nobles and sort of walks into the party. Maybe the party can see it. And so what we have is a very dynamic situation, a lot of potential for combat. There'll be a lot of stuff happening off screen, but it'll certainly shake things up. And then the characters can decide. So this is my hope, right? And you always hope things work this way, that the characters can make the choice of, hey, this is a great distraction. We can get down to that vault and we can do a bunch of stuff down there. Or we need to go help. Like people are going to get, a bunch of rich folk are going to get eaten by gnolls. We don't want that to happen. Capitalism's important. And they can get involved there. So that is, that is one potential way to shake things up. I feel pretty good about it. I think I am going to run that way. It certainly is different than go to a ball, right? And it's real complicated. There's a lot of complicated situations, but we can go right into initiative. And, and there's also like, if the characters decide, no, that's Leto Skull's problem. And he has a bunch of House Deneath mercenaries out there. The House Deneath mercenaries will be fighting them and will probably survive. And, it'll be okay. And Leto Skull himself is going to go out there and start Kona colding people. Because he's an Oni. Shh, Oni. So he's going to go out there and kill him. So they're going to beat those guys to the ground. And the idea was that like these pack lords sort of went rogue against other members of the Dask and said, we're going to go and raid this guy's party and we're going to go steal his artifacts. We're going to go steal fancy artifacts. And, that's we're going to short circuit. We know that Leto's working against the Dask. We believe he's working against the Dask, and we're going to get in the good minds of the leaders of the Dask by taking him down. And they're going to fail anyway, but it certainly will shake things up. So I think that could be a neat way. It's also a neat way to introduce the Dask, and it's also a way for a Dask agent to get in front of the characters potentially, to let them know what's going on. So I think that can work pretty well. Let's see. So yeah, it also opens up something that could be interesting in the vault below, which could be neat. So I don't know if they still want to. They could explore the vault, but after the Dask attack, they could have a meeting with Skull. Learn of Tower 6 from Moorgrave. Rules is written, you can only have one medium creature per large creature. Yeah, that's bummer. But I think we're gonna. Yeah, they could have sort of. So perfect. Thank you, Leo Hart brings in, and there's a picture of this. Let's see if we can find it. I think that there is a picture of Knowles riding on. Is this it? No. There was a picture of Knowles flying on tensor floating discs. This looks like it. Yeah, so here is a bunch of Knowles, or not a bunch, yeah, a couple Knowles riding on tensor floating discs. So the idea, I love it, right? Like, oh, that's so perfect. Thank you. And now they can have about 6 discs per the 2 per Manticore. So instead of 3 Manticores, we'll have 2, and then one of them. Yeah, perfect, cool. All right. Yeah, I think that's gonna be fun, right? I think I'm worried that it throws this whole like wrench in the complication, like, oh, more dinner party crap, right? But it's like, well, there's not a dinner party if a bunch of Knowles attack. So I think that's kind of a cool. I think that's a cool way to go. And then they can kind of, that brings a lot of different potential ways that this scene and situation could go, depending on how they choose to interact with it. So I think that is pretty cool, and I think we're good. So then like it's then into the next stage, and that's going to take a while, right? That's like half the session right there. So I think that Dask is going to contact the characters as well and offer to meet them in the cogs. Remember when I was bringing up like the 3 potential ways that they could go? I think one way is to go meet them in the cogs. And I think that can lead to some good options. I don't want to railroad them down this like series of events. I want to start putting multiple options in front of the players so that they can start to choose what path they want to take. And I think, like, to me, 2 paths that they can take is getting down into Tower 6 of Moorgrave University to get the Tome of Kulsir, meeting with the Dask down in the cogs, and then I want something else. Oh, well, of course. So then we can, so the other event we'll throw in is the Temple of Balinor. So let's put in our scenes, we'll do options, right? And one is Tower 6 of Moorgrave. Acquire the Tome of Kul acquire the Tome of Kulsir in Tower 6 of Moorgrave University. Meet the hidden agent of the Dask in the cogs. And then the third is something Temple of Balinor. So what could the characters want to receive? What could be stored? So that Balinor, for let's dig into our lore here. Get rid of all this nonsense, Reddit posts and whatnot. Balinor. that didn't help me. Let's go to collections, game rule, sources, source books, Eberron, Rising of the Last War. And we go to faiths. Is Balinor a member of the Sovereign Host? Balinor, yeah, Beast of the Hunt, Nature and War. So what would, and so this is a fallen temple to Balinor, right? So I have a location that they want to explore. One of the players is very eager to go there. I really don't know if the other players care at all. But I know that one player is really interested in going there. I could certainly throw something for him. So he's all about the magic items. He's all about magic items. What would be a good... help me Twitch chat. What is a good magic item for a what is a good magic item for a monk? What do monks like? Certainly you could have a magic quarterstaff. That would be awesome, right? But is there are there particular, like, what is a monk item, you know, that really fits the class and is sort of like the class defining item, the thing that all monks want? Bracers of defense. I don't know what the Sword of Perun's is. He certainly likes his staff. So I think we'd probably, you know, if anything, would give him a magical staff. Folding boat. I don't think that fits the monk. I don't think that's a monk thing. He would probably like the do the bracers of defense work well with a monk? They stack. See what the internet has to say. Sage advice. Can magic items like bracers of defense improve? A monk can benefit from bracers of defense. So it sounds like he's saying yes. And I know Brian, the player, loves him some defense. So we could certainly put some bracers of defense in there. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's like a particular magic item. It's sort of like what's the Rod of the Pact Keeper equivalent? So, you know, warlocks want a Rod of the Pact Keeper. It's built for warlocks, and it's really awesome for warlocks. What is the monk equivalent of that? Like, what's the monk equivalent of a Rod of the Pact Keeper or a Wand of the War Mage? You know, or a sword of magic weapons for fighters. You know, that there are certain the not quite Holy Avenger for paladins, but you know what I mean. Things that directly improve their class, and their class in particular, different than Insignia of Claws. Let's look at that. Uncommon magic item from Horde of the Dragon Queen. That's pretty great. Empowering your natural fist. Wearing this insignia, getting +1 bonus. Does it require attunement? It doesn't say it requires attunement. It's pretty great. Yeah, it does not. From Horde of the Dragon Queen. This is back when they didn't know how to make items. I guess it doesn't because uncommon magic items don't. So maybe a Insignia of Claws. And that fits Balinor, right? I think that probably fits Balinor better than Bracers of Defense does. So, okay. So I've got an item. But why would the characters want to go? Why would the rest of the characters want to go there? Like, what would they have there? And would the rest of the player? What if it was just like this was a total side quest? You know, that they just explored. Would they would they be willing to all go in that direction? And you know, I don't know, like how I don't know. I mean, they certainly would if there was something. What I'm trying to figure out is like, is there something that could be driven into the plot that would help here too? You know, that like there was a map of Sire that was placed here, and that map would help talk about where the locations of Sire exist. There's an artifact there. You know, something else that people want. I'm having trouble figuring out what that would be. +1 weapons never do what? Oh yeah, they've never required attunement. Yeah. I don't know. Let's set that aside, and we'll come back to it. But that I think are like three potential options. You know, I could just say like, you know, we could just have this as a side quest for the Explorers Guild. You know, recover. You know, there's a quest, and we'll see. So, okay, returning to where we are, we need 10 secrets and clues. And these are secrets that we want to keep in the context of the fact that they're at the dinner party and that it's going to get raided by a bunch of Dask Gnolls. So there are multiple factions within the Dask. The Dask is loosely controlled. Warlords often go on their own, often act on their own. The Dask answer to the Droam, to the Sisters of the Droam. So now we've got some Dask stuff. The Droam, the Sisters, are interested in the power that caused the mourning. So there's 4 good ones. That's all about Dask. So now we can talk about Lido Skal. Lido Skal financed an expedition to Zendrek. Oh, I have another location to explore. They returned with something large. The crew went mad and ate themselves. The artifact was whisked to Lito's vaults. What other bits do we have here? Artifact was whisked to Lito's vaults. Within the ruined bank vault is a map leading to a secret device wanted by the Aurum. I don't know. What else? Agents of the Emerald Claw are active in Sharn. They seek the power of the weapon of the mourning. But before then, we have the power. The power of the weapon is said to have come from the giant magic of Zendrik. The Tome of Kol Sur is the opposite of the tome of making. It talks about unmaking. So it's the more dangerous of the two tomes. It's kind of a big secret, but agents seeking to build their own weapon need 3 things: power, a shard, a huge shard, the rituals of Kulsir, and the location of the Kenneth in the Mournland. Agents seeking to build a weapon need 3 things: a huge shard, the rituals of Kulsir, and the location of the Kenneth laboratory in the Mournland. What else? So where would the location be held? So who would know about it? So one of the things about what happened during the mourning is that most of House, and I guess this is a secret, or it can be, most of House Kenneth's knowledge was destroyed with the mourning. The location of the vault was lost as well. So I don't know how they're going to find the location. I guess I can sort of leave that out. That's sort of the third thing they need to get before they leave Sharn, right? And I think that, one of these is like, there needs to be multiple ways to get all of these things so that the villains can move forward, even if the characters pick up some of this stuff. So if the characters pick up the Tome of Kulsir, what will Leto Skal do then to try to get the ritual required to create the weapon, right? Who would he ally with? Where would he steal it from? He'd probably try to get the vault, but he might say, like, actually, I already have the tablets that the vault can't. I don't care about the book. I have the tablets. I picked those up in my expedition. So he might have 2 of the 3 things already, but he might lose the shard, right? If the characters find the shard in his vault, they might take it or do something with it. I don't know what. But so knowledge of the, I guess all of the groups hunt for the location of the vault. I think the Emerald Claw knows where it is. Not the vault, the laboratory. So lots of secrets. So I feel pretty set there. I already have a pretty good idea about the Aurum Manor and what's underneath it. I think this is what's under. Oh no, this is what's underneath it. Those are the vaults underneath the Aurum Manor, underneath Leto Skal's manor. I already have locations for Morgrave University. I do need a the Ruined Temple of Balinor. So let's go to my favorite site. Dyson logos, maps. And we are looking for a map for a temple. I was gonna say, let's look through his newer stuff, but no need. So we already used that. We're already using that. I just grab whatever. I'm gonna use this one. It's gonna be the crypts where the Emerald Claw is hanging out. Ooh, this looks pretty good. This is one of his new index card sized Yeah, I think this could work pretty well, right? And it could be held back in here. This is good. I like it. All right, see, we're good. So I got a Ruined Temple Balinar ready to go. I'll tell you, man, you never need a map. Go to Dyson. He's got them all. It's like 900 maps here. And as you can see, you just sort of sort through them and you grab the first one that works and you're set. That's the laziest approach for finding a map. You can also print a real easy trick is print these out and grab a pen and draw, write in the features of the map, write in the features of the map in it. And that can work really well. I wonder what would be in here. Maybe some of those undead knoll things would be kind of cool as undead versions of shifters. I think that could work really well. What else do we have? I think NPCs are pretty well set. So I don't need to worry about that. Monsters. So let's take a look for monsters. No. Witherling, right? I think witherlings are undead. Yeah, perfect. Oh, and they're low. This is great. So we're going to throw witherlings. So these are for the temple. What other kind of cool creatures would be? I already had ochre jellies. Maybe some gray oozes. Can never go wrong with gray oozes. They're fun. So, a ruined temple to a bestial god. What kind of creatures would you find there? I don't know. Hey, look, there's a huge gray ooze. Ooh, psychic gray ooze. Yeah. We're using those. What other creature? If you have a temple to a bestial god, to a god of war and nature, and it got corrupted when the temple fell, what kind of beasts? I guess you could have like a zombie ogre. Minotaur skeletons. Yeah, that's a good idea. Those are good. Yeah, I think that's good. I think we're set there. I don't know that I'm going to worry about filling out the other places yet, because I don't think we have to worry too much about them getting there. And then the treasure is going to be the icon of claws. So I think that can work. So most of it, yeah, I think they're going to still go into the vault. But if they come out of the vault, I think I've got enough things going on for them, enough options for them that I can sort of fill it out as we go. So I think we're pretty good here. Yeah, so I think we're gonna call it a day here. I'm gonna end a little early and do a little bit more research offline and try to fill this out. So yeah. Anyway, I hope it was interesting to talk about dinner parties, and we will find out next week how the recovery from the dinner party goes. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I always appreciate having such a fine audience of folks hanging out to help me prep my game. And I will see all of you guys next week, and I hope you have a chance to get out there and play some D&D. Thank you very much.